We take a look now at what's going on in the world. Recently, Honduras' socialist president, Xiomara Castro, threatened to expel U.S. military bases from her country if President Trump followed through on his plan to deport illegal aliens from Honduras back to Honduras. She should remember how threats like that worked out for the president of Colombia. This entire fiasco got us thinking, what happened to Honduras? As recently as 2019, they were working with the Trump administration on some measures.
That President Hernandez is working with the United States very closely. You know what's going on our southern border, and we're winning after years and years of losing. We're stopping drugs at a level that has never happened, unfortunately.
President Trump mentioned the previous president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez. But President Hernandez isn't in power today. He's sitting in a U.S. prison, having been sentenced to 45 years by a federal judge following numerous narcotics trafficking convictions. Federal prosecutors obtained convictions on allegations that President Hernandez ran Honduras as a narco state and a cocaine superhighway into the United States. A record of the drugs Hernandez was aware of moving through the country showed as much as 500 tons of cocaine. Honduras took in nearly $50 million in foreign aid annually to counter narcotics during President Hernandez's tenure. At sentencing, a judge called him a two-faced politician. President Orlando Hernandez has maintained throughout all of this that he is innocent and that the very people he extradited and sent from the United States, from Honduras to the United States for drug trafficking gave false testimony against him. Now, here's what caught my eye. False testimony was admittedly given against President Hernandez at trial from a law enforcement agent who incorrectly said that cocaine trafficking went up in Honduras during the ex-president's time in office. The judge said that that was an immaterial error, but it seems sort of significant to me. And this twist raises questions about some of the motives behind this prosecution. Does America have to endure a Honduras that is either diplomatically hostile or running drugs? Is it either the socialists or the narcos in this country? Was President Hernandez an ally or a narco? Joining us tonight are former President Hernandez's wife, Ana, and their daughters, Isabella and Danielle, who can perhaps clear up some of the questions behind this extradition and prosecution. But first, you all know Honduran politics well. You're obviously very connected to it. Can you explain to my viewers why is the current president of Honduras working against President Trump?
Hi, thank you, Congressman Gates, for hosting us in your show. It's a pleasure meeting you. We know you will have been a great attorney general, but now we know that you'll be a great asset to the Trump administration. And yes, that's right. President Xiomara Castro is really working against President Trump and U.S. agenda, especially in migration and fighting the drug cartels.
Yes, and right now, speaking of the drug cartels, it's President Hernandez who is serving a 45-year prison sentence with narco-trafficking convictions. Does he still maintain his innocence, and what is the case he's making for his innocence?
Yes, of course. My husband is innocent. Just like President Trump was a victim of lawfare, my husband is a victim of the DOJ's Biden lawfare agenda against him. My husband always fight the narco traffickers. In fact, during his presidency as president of Congress and president of the Republic of Honduras, he passed and approved a package of more than 25 security laws to combat organized crime. These included the anti-money laundering law, the policy purification decree, and asset forfeiture law, among others. Most importantly, Juan Orlando promoted and approved the constitutional reform to allow the extradition of Honduras national to the U.S. He did this in collaboration with the U.S. government. He did this as a great risk of his life and our life, fearing the consequences that Colombia, for example, faced when they approved the extradition, which was a wave of narco-terrorism.
And as I understand it, it was some of the people whose extradition he approved who then testified against him. Is that how the trial went?
Yeah, that's true. During Juan Orlando government, 28 criminals were extradited.
Okay.
And
let me ask this question because it did seem that case was built on a lot of testimony. There was some testimony given by a federal agent that they've acknowledged was false, but a judge said that that was insufficient to grant the appeal that your husband was seeking. And what the judge said was that there were logs that showed that there were all these drugs moving through Honduras into the United States, and that your husband had knowledge of that, and that he protected those narco traffickers. Are those logs related to the activities of your husband, or are those logs not related to his activities?
yeah, those logs were not related to my husband. In fact, during the trial, the lawyer that represented my husband, he proved that the ledgers were not related to my husband's case. I mean, the case was just based solely in the testimony of narco traffickers, violent criminals.
Well, let me ask you this last question. Are you seeking a pardon for your husband or a commutation from President Trump? Have you pursued that with any member of the administration? Where does it stand?
Yes, but before to answer that, I just want to say something. While President Trump is now declaring narco traffickers as terrorists, DOJ Biden, they may deal with these narco traffickers. In Juan Orlando's case, one of these testigos, they killed more than 56 people, and now he's freely living in the U.S. country. He might be your neighbor. We don't know that. So I think that it's very wrong what they did to my husband. He was a victim. He is a victim of lawfare. So what we are asking the present administration is that they can review this case under different circumstances. I mean, this is a lawfare case, and President Trump, during his inauguration, he said that he will investigate the investigators, that he suffered himself from lawfare. So maybe the U.S. government, the DOJ, the DOS can look at this case in a proper way, and justice be served to our family.
You've certainly raised some critical points, and I appreciate you coming on the program and sharing your perspective. Ana
Thank you.
Garcia de Hernandez and your lovely daughters, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.